Good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody? Well, it's morning for me. It's not morning for everybody, but it is morning for me. And I need to clear my glasses real quick. That's the only thing I didn't get to. I was like, oh, uh, I gotta grab my tea. And so I've got my tea in hand, but my glasses would be good because everybody's blurry. Miss Nikki is like ready and raring. I think Miss Carrie was grabbing coffee. Miss Kaleidoscope had sent me a message that she was ready. People with coffee, probably other people where it's a little bit later, maybe already had a couple cups of coffee. I'm starting with tea. I have a drink station. Oops, so let's mute my. That's Miss Kaleidoscope, what she's showing me. She's showing me her position. She's got everything set. She's got a computer. I'm sure she's got something to color. She is ready and raring. But let's see. Probably most of Europe is it's probably 5 hours from now. 9, 10, 11, 12. Maybe 2 in the afternoon or so for some people. Spirited North and tarot student, one of her favorite early traditions. Okay, I'm going to have to fix this. My feet have nowhere to go. Gaming Terry finally made it to a live chat. Well, this is a wing dinger of a live chat to make it to. I have spiderweb earrings on and cat things. I had a cute little hat last time, but I thought I would make it try a little bit different and bring in some luck of the spider. If you're creeped out by spider, hopefully these won't creep you out. This one's kind of flipped over, but I'm not going to mess with it. Well, I will mess with it. It's 15, so, 12. Oh, I thought Jay's like it's 12-hour time difference. I'm like, what? UK, it's 14, so it's 12 or 2 o'clock there. But it's 3 in the afternoon for tarot student. I know. Welcome. If you are new to the channel, this is our 4th year. We figured out it is our 4th year running of doing a 12-hour live chat somewhere around Halloween. And that somewhere around Halloween is today. So it is a marathon of speaking for 12 hours, but I have people who are amazing and they pound out as many hours as they can. We've had people in the past make it the whole 12 hours, which is amazing. I know Miss Kaleidoscope has made it a couple years for 12 hours. I don't think she will this year, she said, but she has done it. So that's what we're doing today. As with the past live chats, I tend to stop the live chat at 3 hours and restart a new one, 10 minutes later or so. That is because it makes it a little bit easier when people miss chunks of time that they can find. Thank you, Miss Kaleidoscope. She likes my cat and hopefully my spiders. I don't know if she likes spiders or not. But that gives people an easier time at being able to find maybe where they have missed out. And hello, Michelle. And also keeps the video from being so unwieldy. So we did that, I think, the first year, and we've always done that. So there'll be the great shift. Every 3 hours, there'll be the great shift as we shift over to the next live chat. So I don't know about you guys. I am not super awake yet. I don't know. There's something about when you have to go to sleep. Like I already have insomnia. That's, I'm used to that. It's my whole life I've had insomnia. But when you have to go to sleep, it's just something. I even took a Benadryl because I've got a little bit of a cold, so my throat might be starting out a little bit rough already. But So I thought, I'm going to take a Benadryl. It's going to help dry up my sinuses and put me to sleep. Of course not. Of course not. I stayed up and laying in bed and watching Gothica, which is not, again, meant to put me to sleep, right? That's just going to get you more awake. So, yeah, I did not get a lot of sleep, but that's okay. We are powerhouses, and we are going to power through lack of sleep. Yeah, it was good to see again. I haven't watched it in a long time. I remember watching it when, my kids were younger. I didn't watch with my kids when they were younger, but my sisters. So I have two sisters who are 17 and 19. I was 17 when my sister Joanna was born. I was 19 when my sister Emily was born. And so they would come over, obviously, as young teenagers and stuff all of the time. And we would watch scary movies. And I remember watching Gothica with them. They went to go out to the car. And my husband at the time ran around the apartment and or not the apartment, it was our house. He ran into our garage because they were parked right in front of the garage. And just as they were getting to their car, he just like slammed his hands on the garage door and just scared the bejesus out of them. Joanna ended up on top of the hood of the car because it scared her so bad. But anyways, yes. I have my newer chair that I got. So far, Nikki is in charge, apparently, of keeping track of our flat butt syndrome that occurs with sitting for 12 hours. I figure I'll gradually add, right? Right now I'm good. I'm sure I'll be adding in some kind of cushion. Mr. Patrick is here at the get-go. I'm sure we'll be in and out. As I said, I have tea. I'm mostly going to be drinking peppermint. It's called Peppermint Express, I believe. No, Peppermint Peak. It's a new brand, or it's a new from, I'm trying to think of the name of it. It's the herbal tea. It's really Celestial Seasonings, I think. It's the new one. And it's peppermint tea, but it's got black coffee in it. It's got black tea in it, so it has caffeine, which is really important, especially for the next 12 hours. And Miss Glasgow has a new padded seat, so she's ready to go. Claire's going to sleep. Bye, Claire. Get some good sleep. We'll see you on the flip side. But this is still too hot and I really want to take a drink. So that's what I'm starting with. I have coffee ready to go and pop into the Keurig. I have cans of Coke Zero. I don't generally use cans, but I thought today I can just grab a can and go. So we're set. I also have 2 deliveries coming today. I have a deck to look at. And then I also have a game for us to play. So those, I have no clue because I don't generally order things to come to my apartment because they lose everything. I thought, well, we'll do it. My hair is driving me crazy already. It's gonna be a long 12 hours of hair problems. But I have no clue what time it's gonna get delivered. Sometime in the next 12 hours, hopefully they'll be delivered so that we can have a little unboxing live. We gotta fill the time, folks. It's so hot and I so want to drink it, but I don't want to start the day out burning my mouth. I don't know. I'm going to let her sleep in because Saturday is about the only day she gets to sleep in, and I'll text her. We were going to do D&D like we did last time, but without Google Hangouts, I wasn't entirely sure how to accomplish it. I'm going to have to figure out how to have people on. I could do it through Zoom, I think, but I couldn't even find confirmation of that with the new setup. And it would have cost me like $50, I think, to get Zoom so that I could do it. And I wasn't sure if it would stream the same way with the new streaming. So So she got off the hook. My niece was going to do it. Katie was going to do it. And Teresa was going to do it, but I'll do it later. I've got a one shot ready, so I'll do it later. Oh, Jada just ordered the Force of Enchantment Tarot. I'm going to go through, oh, that's right there. I figured what I'm going to do this morning, just because, you know, mornings are kind of lazy and getting going. So we will fill that spot with salt lamp. Let's not go straight to the salt lamp. Usually the salt lamp shenanigans happen later in the day. Nikki apparently wanted to roll right into the crazy. Hello, Rosa. Hello, Sea Willow Herbs. Yeah, I will say people definitely have fallen in love with the Force of Enchantment. I'm going to be using it next month a lot, so I'm excited about that. Okay, I think I'm going to. I don't know where I put that. I think I put it back. I think what I'm going to start with, because I've been meaning to do this anyways, so I'm going to start. Look at Molly. So I had two fish. One was Molly and one was Percy. They're from Critical Role characters of Talisons. But one passed away, and Molly seems to be pretty happy, although I know they're supposed to have a companion. Anyways, you'll see him floating around there. Nice, Terry. That's really nice. Random, but I love your hair length. My hair length is starting to bug me. Yeah, I'm growing it out, and this right here but I've got to let things grow. I've got to keep cutting this until my ears meet up so that I have a little bob, and then grow from there. But we'll see if at any point I get really frustrated and chop it all off again. We'll see. Anyway, what I thought I would do is I'm going to got my Kelly's Water, or Kelly's Mojo, as Patrick and I like to call it. This is like Florida water. So if you watch my channel, you know you might remember, I get migraines from floral scents. And Florida water has a bit of a floral scent to it. And so I made my own. I have a video up on how I made it. I've tweaked the formula, but I also perfected my formula for me and Patrick, because I supply it for Patrick. But I perfected it, and I absolutely love the smell. But I'm going to pull down. So this shelf here, and this shelf here, and this shelf here. So 3 shelves have all of my absolute favorite decks. Plus I have a couple here because they were on my table. So I'm going to pull. So what we're going to do is go through these, and this side is tarot and this side is oracle. These are my favorites that I actually use all of the time for readings. So I have them separated out. But this and this line here are my absolute favorite tarots. And then this and this are my absolute favorite oracles. So I thought I will pull those down and go through those so that, people always are asking what my favorite decks are, and I've been meaning to do it. I thought this will at least give us something to get going in the morning. Hello, Lady D. It has been a while. Oh, sorry if I've missed people coming in. I just ordered the Celtic Shamans pack reissue of the predecessor. Oh, is that what it's called? The Celtic Shaman? Michelle, they're calling the predecessor to the Wild. Yeah, I'm very confused. Oh, the Celtic Shamans pack is by the same artist of the original Wildwood Tarot. I have that. I think that's what you're talking about. Oh, Sherrybug makes her own. Yeah, I keep the citrus, more citrus. I do use bergamot, which is a slightly floral citrus, so I kind of use that to, and I use the right I found a recipe for Florida water, the other key for me, and I know people are, it's going to be controversial, not controversial, but that's a big word for it. I know a lot of people use rubbing alcohol and things like that in sprays. I use vodka, and I do think it affects the way that it smells, but it's delicious. I love it. Lady Night missed the beginning of chat. What are we doing today? We are doing 12 hours of chat. It is 12 hours of chit chat, randomness, whatever we can do to fill 12 hours of chit chatting. So we're starting with my favorite, all-time favorite decks. I think we'll start here and go up here. These are my historical, you can't see, but this is a cubicle of my historical decks. I'm not going to pull that one for right now, although I'll pull my favorites off of there in a minute. Witch hazels, that's an interesting idea, Terry. I could see that as well. Okay, I'm gonna stay focused and then we'll move. So these, we're gonna start with my favorite tarot decks, but they're the tarot decks that I actually use a lot in my reading. So I do read professionally, and so I use these decks a lot when I'm doing readings, and so I kind of have them where they're ready to grab and easy to find. I'll actually start with the one that's was on my table, which is the Majestic Earth Tarot. I knew this was going to be a favorite. I don't know if we want to look at all these or not, but I knew these were going to be a favorite of mine, and it has not disappointed. Eventually you should be able to potentially order this. I don't know. I know she had more than the Kickstarter, but I don't know when they're going up for. I don't know when they're going up for grabs. This was a Kickstarter. I ordered it as soon as the Kickstarter started. And I have been using this, and I absolutely love it. Miss Nikki, I just wanted to point out real quick, if you let me know if and when we need to add any other moderators, and I'll wrangle somebody in to do so. But don't hesitate to poke me and say, we need somebody else, Miss Nikki. Sorry, little call out to our resident hammer swinger. But yes, this is a huge favorite of mine, and it's one I've been using with clients. These are not in any order. These are just ones. These are my favorite decks ever. The Way Home Tarot. I love this deck. And I didn't think I was going to. I wasn't even going to get it. But my friend Patrick, who is on here, Living Wheel, he got it. And he kind of did a walkthrough of it for me. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I will get it. And I love it. I use this a lot for clients. I love that Three of Wands. I just love it. It really is a fantastic deck. Again, these are my favorites, but this is one, and these are the ones I'm talking about right now are favorites that I use a lot with clients. So that is a little bit different, right? You can have favorites for a lot of different reasons, and these are ones that I love I use them a lot when I'm doing readings. Of course, we cannot help but talk about the darkness of light because I use this all the time for clients. I love this. This is the second edition. I really don't. The third edition has white on the top, which top and bottom, which doesn't really work for me, but I'm sure for somebody else it does. Thankfully, I have the first edition. And I have this edition, and I think I have another one. Anyways, thankfully, because I use this. But this has held up really well. I know some people had problems with chipping and stuff, maybe first edition. I've not had any issues at all with the cardstock, and I shuffle this a lot. This is called the Darkness of Light Tarot. I know that it's still available. I believe it's got white tops and bottoms now, from what I understand. But I absolutely love this deck. I use it all the time for my past life readings, but I use it for other things as well. But my main reading for past life readings is almost always, or the main part of my reading is almost always this deck. Another big favorite. I think I do, Jay, to have a walkthrough of that. This is one of my most used decks, which is called Arcana Tarot Playing Cards. And it's basically a playing card deck turned into a tarot deck. So it has beautiful black and white art. Absolutely beautiful black, but it has the playing card pips, and it has, you know, wands reference there with the clubs reference there, and then they've added obviously the extra page or the extra card that's needed for the court cards of playing cards. So it is a full playing card deck with the extra cards needed to fill it into a it's one of my all-time favorite backs. I have the playing card version of white, and then in the full tarot I have in black. So I use this a lot. I love the size. I use it to expand the darkness of light reading in my past life readings all the time. And so these two together get used a lot. And I use this. I grab this a lot just for quick things. Kelly, have you looked into Uzi? Yes. Yes, they have some neat ones, Michelle. Oh, it's drinkable now. Ooh, I need to look that one up, Miss Kaleidoscope. Next on my favorites is Children of Litha. I love this deck. I can't wait for her to make more. The creator's intention is to make several different decks that have the same framework so that you can swap cards in and out. I think 4 of them, one for each of the major equinoxes and solstices. This is the Children of Litha. Why do I love this? I love this because it has Fae Major Arcana, it has animal pips, and it has people courts. So it has, for me, that total package of how I see the world in terms of energy, living creature energies. And I just love that. And the art is bold and beautiful. And I love this deck. There's a couple problematic cards in it for me, especially the Emperor. The Emperor is rough a little bit, and the Ten of Swords is pretty rough. It's gilded. You can see it's well used. I do riffle shuffle. You're not supposed to riffle shuffle gilding. I do, but I have to say that this ages beautifully. So it definitely looks like I used it because I have used it a lot, but it's not chipping. It's just wearing in a beautiful way, and I'm okay with that. So that is Children of Litha. Okay. Next one is Pagan Otherworlds. Again, if you're just coming in, I'm going through my favorite tarot decks. The first set of them are ones I use a lot for clients. So I have them, you know, kind of in a separate place so they can all fit. The Pagan Otherworlds is a really great pip deck if you are comfortable with Rider-Waite-Smith. But you're wanting to shift to pips, because you can definitely see the Rider-Waite-Smith here, but it's pips. So it also opens it up like pips are want to do. I wasn't thrilled with the Adam and Eve idea pulled into a pagan deck. You know, there's little things, but oh, look at that Hermit. So it's a wonderful deck. I personally think this is a fantastic deck to read with clients because it has the pips, which kind of frees you up to read as you read. If you're like me and you don't read strict Rider-Waite-Smith, it frees you up to be able to, to be able to read how you read, but at the same time, it is recognizable as the Rider-Waite-Smith for people who are just making the shift over from maybe Rider-Waite-Smith to pip decks. I know. I mean, maybe this isn't a good idea. I thought maybe this would be a great way to start because people are always asking me, what are your favorite decks? So that's a big question I get asked a lot. So I thought, this would be a great way to start the morning because I figured the morning we really wouldn't have anybody on. But I was wrong. We have people to chit chat with. So I tried to come up with something that, all right, we can chit chat about this. This is Cerebito Tarot. I know I'm trying to because I have a lot of decks that I love. This whole thing is tarot decks that I love. Of course, I love that it started. This is one of my favorite. I love the way that the interconnection is shown in the Six of Pentacles. It's not a rich person giving to a poor person, but the understanding that we are all connected. So when we give energy out to somebody, it comes back in a good exchange. It should be coming back in an even exchange of putting energy out, getting energy back. And that should be in good relationships and things like that. That should be an even exchange. But it really speaks about the way that we are all interconnected. So we should be helping one another because that is only helping all of us, right? So that is the Cerebito. I did not get this for a long time. It's really glossy, but it shuffles like a dream. And I don't know. I thought, I like anime style art, but I just was like, I don't really need it. So I was very late on the bus for this one, but I'm glad I did. It actually reads great for clients. People respond to it really well. It's just a beautiful reader. It's like just one of those good readers that I'm trying to see if I can find some of my favorites. I love the strength card there. I don't know. It just reads well for people. She has some different takes. I love the Hermit. She has some different takes in it, and it reads really beautifully. So I'm really glad I picked it up. Again, I use this a lot. This is another one that has high shine edging, and I use this quite a bit. You can definitely tell that I use it, but it's aging in a nice way with gilding. Good morning. Good morning. Going through my favorites. I shouldn't have worried because I figured we wouldn't have a lot of people, but that's okay. We can talk about favorite decks as we go. I have a bit of a cold, so we're starting out rough in speaking terms from the get-go, so who knows what I'm going to sound like in 12 hours. I have, of course, the Fountain Tarot. I just used this recently in a reading and for a client, and it was just, it reminded me, it's like, this is just one of those decks that, again, it's just a great all-round deck. Because remember, if you're reading for yourself, you obviously use whatever you want to use. If you're reading for clients, you use whatever you want to use. But I will say there is often a difference. When I'm picking a deck that I'm going to use for clients, I do think there's a difference. I do want for the images to be really clear. I do want there to be a bit of neutrality that's there where it's not bringing any extra energy or emotion to the table, because generally people are coming to a reading with emotions already in hand, right? They've already coming to it with either a problem or something that they're trying to solve. And so I really like to use for clients decks that are just kind of clean and just solid readers that are easy to, it doesn't bring anything to the table in terms of emotions or energy or something like that. So for example, like the Marielle, although I have used the Marielle for clients, but that's really powerful and really deep. And if somebody's already in the midst of powerful and deep emotions, I just like clean, let's not bring anything extra to the table. I don't know if that makes any sense, but the Fountain Tarot is definitely a favorite for me. Again, these are not in order. I'm just kind of grabbing them. This is, Nikki, maybe you're going to remember what the name of this is. I think you have this. I think it's the Art of Life for Past Life Readings. I'm sorry, Nikki, because I know you're trying to do links. My book is over there. Hello, Libby. Don't be sad that you're new. Welcome to 12 Hours of Live Chat. Thank you, Anna Teresa. Art of History, Past Lives. I use this more like an oracle deck, but I do have it. I do have it in my tarot decks because it's a tarot deck. I use this for my past life readings as part of my past life readings. I do a lot of different decks in my past life readings, and this is one of them. I think it's brilliant. Again, I mostly use it as an oracle deck for timing and for place settings and things like that. But I have walkthrough, so far I have a walkthrough on all of this. And everything I think I've talked about here so far. I think it's brilliant, and I use it all for past life readings. I got this random card sitting out. I'm going to try not to do that so we don't mix up decks. It is a really cool deck, Michelle, especially if you're interested in past lives or your own past lives and that kind of thing. She also has a workbook. I haven't picked it up yet. I'm going to, that people have said is really fantastic. Okay, keep it on moving. This is one I don't have a walkthrough of, and I don't know why I don't have a walkthrough of it. This is called the Cheminée Tarot. I traded this with my friend Larissa. I think it was for a past life reading. Anyways, it was for a reading or something. And I love this deck. I'm going to see if I can find the one that I use to explain why I really love this deck. And I don't think that's said correctly. I don't know how to say it. Let me see if I can find the one. What I love about this deck is that it seems to, not every single card, but for the most part, here it is. It seems to offer not just the typical card meaning, but it seems to be giving you the solution to the card. So we had a thing, and we might do this later on today, but we did something when we did the 24 hours of tarot where everybody took an hour. And I did my section was on the fact that every tarot card has a question that it asks you. And so this deck takes that to what is the answer to that question. So for example, with the 8 of Swords, which is normally somebody who is trapped by a bunch of swords, they're sometimes blindfolded, their hands are tied, they're in a predicament, right? And so this card shows you the solution, which is to take those swords, which is your thoughts and your mind and your mental power, and use those swords to pull yourself up and out of the tight situation that you're in. And a lot of the cards in this deck are like that, where they seem to provide the answer or the solution to the question that the card is asking of us. So that's why I really like the Cheminée Tarot. I use this for client. Obviously, it's in my client pile. I use this in some past life readings because I like the size. Anyways, it's just a great deck. Mr. Owen, good morning. I wanted to wish Kelly and everyone a grand day. I'm going to be in and out because my husband is here. Hello, Elron's husband. And my student is playing with the orchestra. Oh, good. Much luck to your student, Mr. Elrond. And somebody's birthday, Libby's birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Libby. Happy birthday to you. And many more. We have our first birthday. Oh. Okay, so there we go. That is, that's that one. We're almost through my favorites that I use for clients all the time. Of course, I have the Wild Unknown Tarot. I love this deck. I have used this deck mucho times. If you watch my walkthrough, you know that I originally purchased this deck and I immediately sold it, like within 3 days. I think because it reminded me a lot of my son. I just wasn't ready for it. This is one of the cards I don't like. I don't like Broken Cups and the Eight of Cups. I don't know why they do that. And obviously the Ten of Swords, not my favorite. It's probably one of my least favorite depictions of the Ten of Swords. But despite those cards, it is a beautiful deck, and it's one that I use a lot with clients. People respond to it well. There's no people in it. Some people that are, struggling with issues of, here's the one I dislike the most, Ten of Swords. Not how I read it. But other than that, it is... now it's mass market. It used to be, I have all the editions. The second edition is my favorite because it shuffles much better than the first edition. But the first edition feels the best, but this is the second edition because this is the one I like to shuffle the most. So, but it's now in mass market from what I'm aware of. I think it's still available, but I'm not entirely positive of that. I believe it's still a mass market available deck. Okay, three more. In my favorites, not in all my favorites, but in my favorite tarot decks that I use a lot for clients. This is the Naked Heart Tarot by Jillian C. Wild, or I say C. I don't know why I said, yeah, it is Jillian C. Wild. I love Jillian. She actually has a Kickstarter out right now for a more like a fortune-telling deck. I say that. It's not a fortune-telling deck. It's the small, it's more of a poker size with just symbols, almost like more of a Sibylla or a Lenormand deck. But again, what I like about this for clients is it's just nice and clean. There's a lot of white space. It's all animals, so there's no people. There's hands like the skeleton. But it's just really, clean and clear. And again, there's no issues with people or gender or sexuality in terms of, like the Lover's card and things like that. It just makes it really neutral, which I quite love as a, reading for clients. It's great to have clean, neutral reading decks. And that's one of the things that I really love about this particular deck. So that is definitely a favorite. I know there are 2 editions of this. I don't know which one I have out. I think this is the second edition because it has a smaller guidebook. So I think this is the second edition. So we have that. Almost done with my favorite tarot decks to read for clients. Oh, this is over here. This is, well, I'm knocking things over. This is the Crow Tarot. I love this deck so much. This is the US game version. I love Crows and Ravens. But this is very Rider-Waite-Smith, so I didn't think I was going to really like it. But because of the way that the art is done, and because of there not being any people in it, it feels very pip-like. I can pretty much just read this the way I read tarot, and the Rider-Waite-Smith doesn't get in the way. Is there a larger book for the Naked Heart? The first edition, April, it was larger than the second edition. Now, I don't know whether you can get that like on the PDF download. If that's the bigger one, I would contact Jillian and maybe see. I don't know. I absolutely love this deck. It stays over on my forest shelf. I use this for ancestral readings, like if I'm using a tarot deck in my web readings, the readings that kind of really go along with my personal spiritual path, which tends to be like the ancestor reading, the web reading, even the animal spirits reading, or like the walk in the woods reading. Those are things that are really tied into the way that I see the world, and I tend to use this deck a lot for that. So I absolutely love this. This was a Kickstarter, I think, or something like that, but then US Games picked it up, and I actually really prefer the US Games. It's a little bit bigger. I have a comparison, I think, and the Emperor problem is fixed in the US Games version, so I absolutely love it. Oops. Especially Robert Place's new alchemical tarot, something with opus in it. I'm not sure, tarot student. Good afternoon, tarot and tattoos, and good afternoon to you in sunny Scotland. Oh, I'm banging my teeth. I shouldn't have worried. I really worried that I would be talking to myself this morning. That's why I planned to do this morning. Last one of tarot decks that I absolutely love, that I use a lot for clients, and it's the Jeopardy Tarot. I know these are out right now in crazy expensive amounts because it's out of print. Unless you really want the first edition, I wouldn't be spending crazy amounts of money on this, because my understanding is it's being republished. So, just wait a little bit for the republishing, because I've seen it put up for really expensive amounts because it's out of print. But it's coming back. I love this deck, and I did not expect to love this deck. I just, I figured it would be cool. It would be something, kind of interesting to look at. I love this deck. It has really become quite the workhorse deck for me. It reads really beautiful for clients. It's one of my favorite 8 of Wands. All she has to do is get up and go grab that key and walk out of the room, right? It really highlights the fact that in the 8 of Wands, or the 8 of Swords, or the 8 of Air, we're imprisoning our own self. The swords are about the mind, and we are locking our own self away. We are imprisoning and entangling ourselves, and that we just have to get up and take that key and walk out the door. So I love, and I also love this 6 of Fire. She's done a lot of work to get where she is. It didn't just come out of nowhere. So yes, she's getting the recognition that the 6 of Fire represents, but it's not just random. She's done the work to get there. So I love that. I love it, love it, love it. So anyways, this is a Jeopardy Tarot, and I absolutely love it. And it's a great, like I said, it's a great workhorse deck. So that is the last of so those are my favorite tarot decks that I use a lot with clients. So they're just, for whatever reason, they read well for one reason or another. And trying to put them back. This goes on my table because I knew this was going to be like one of my ultimate favorite decks, and this is definitely one of my ultimate favorite decks. So there's that. let's see. So do we want me to keep going with the tarot decks? This is my favorites tarot decks. Or do we want to do favorite oracle decks that I use for clients and then go to just the general favorites? I will let you guys decide which way you want me to go while I take another drink. Well, I'm going to do both, but I just want to know, let's finish this. That way we'll finish cubicles. How about that? Let's finish cubicles. Okay, so these are, if you're just watching, these are favorite decks that I use a lot with clients for, they just fit into readings. I tend to use specific decks for specific readings. It's how I make my readings, and it just tends to be how I then stay with those readings. So, so these are decks that I use a lot with clients for readings. Actually, I need to grab... there's 4 over here that I need to grab because these are my most used probably. So these are readings that go along with the Crow Tarot, and I use for those readings that I said are most alignment with my personal path. This is the Shaman's Oracle. I have a walkthrough of this up finally. This is probably one of my most used decks. I use it for my ancestor readings. And I just love this deck. I'm not going to go into walkthrough because I've already done one. This is trimmed, but I do have a walkthrough of this up. This is one of the few decks I have backup copies of because I use it so much, and it's not the greatest card stock. That is a mass market deck. This is actually 2 decks blended together at the moment. This is the Brian Froud's Heart of Fairy and the Brian Froud Fairy Oracle. I use this for my Walk in the Woods reading. And so I use this. I've just blended them together at the moment. Although it's funny because one of the other tends to take precedence. So right now, I feel like even though they're mixed together, this Heart of Fairy one seems to have be coming forward more. And then obviously, sometimes it's the other one, but it's kind of funny how it does that. But that's the Heart of the Fairies Oracle by Brian Froud and the Heart of Fairy Oracle by Brian Froud. They are visually the most like the way that I see Fae energy. And so I love those. Oh, I guess somebody just found one really cheap recently. The Heart of Fairy, apparently, which is not okay because I know everybody would like them. But my favorite is the Fairies Oracle. I did a video comparing them, I think, and I love them both. I have had the Heart of Fairy the longest, but my favorite of the 2 is the Fairy Oracle. It's a more, for me, it's a more cohesive deck, and I don't believe that one is out of print. This is one of my all-time favorite oracle decks. It's called the Illuminated Earth Oracle. I love this deck so much. I can't even tell you. I love it because it really speaks to the way that energy moves, and it's not good or bad. Energy isn't good or bad, right? It's just the way the world works. It's a way things move and shift. And when there's forest fires, not ones we've started, but just the natural forest fires, when there are volcanoes, when there are hurricanes and storms, this is the natural climate that we live in. And these energy shifts, we just need to be aware of so that we can work with the movements that are there. And so I absolutely, I just absolutely love this deck. My favorite, somebody asked about decks, what I pair with. But what I love about this, I love this deck with the Moonchild Tarot. Oh my goodness, do I love that. And then lastly is the Weaver's Oracle. Again, this deck for me is more about bibliomancy. I mean, the cards are great and they're amazing what the creator of this did with this deck. But for me, it's about bibliomancy. There is a story for each one of the grandmothers in this deck, or the weavers, or the shamans, or the Udagons. For me, pulling a card is just to get to that story. So even in my readings with clients, I read the story. And this one is the heart of my web reading. And it's, to me, bibliomancy in its finest. I haven't gotten there yet. Astrology cards are easy for me to say because that is my living wheel. Astrology cards are the only ones that I really use, and I will get there. These are just my favorite oracle decks that I use with clients. So I'm going to stick those back over here. So favorites for sure. Those stay out all the time. And actually, I'll grab the living wheel because that's out here too. The living wheel astrology cards by my friend Patrick, because I got to help him. I got to brainstorm and say, what do we need to have? What should we didn't want anything on it to interfere with the way people read things. I begged for the lunar nodes thing. Mine are in order because I don't use this as an oracle deck. I use this to lay out the energy of what's going on above, and then I pull cards for what's going on below. So this is a oracle, gorgeous matte gold. It's just beautiful. It's perfect. It's the deck that I wanted, which is, why I love it. So there's and the art is just gorgeous. So it has the houses, obviously the houses, the signs, the planets. It has like lunar eclipse, and it has the phases of the moon in it. And then one of my favorite things is that it has the 8 seasons. So the 8 point of the season wheel, which are absolutely gorgeous. So yes, this is my favorite astrology deck. Again, I don't shuffle this and use this as an oracle deck. I mean, people do, so I'm not saying you can't, but I use it to set out, again, what's going on above, and then I draw cards for what's going on below. That's how I use those. So I'm going to stick that back over there. I think that's all the decks that are over there. Yeah. Okay. So other oracle decks. We're going to finish this cubicle, and then we'll just take a break and talk about something else. And later we'll hit all my favorites today. We have 12 hours to fill up, folks. 12 hours. A favorite of mine, Shamanic Healing deck. I love this. This is by Michelle Matza, something like that. I love this deck. I always say this is one of those decks that I wish she came out with a new deck that has beautiful matte. And I really wish, I'm going to keep begging to, I think this is Schiffer. Yeah, I'm going to keep begging that they re-release this in matte, because that's the only thing I don't like about it. But I always say, excuse me, it's early for my voice to be cracking. It's the only deck that the universe made me buy. I have a lot of decks. I buy a lot of decks. But this one, the universe, I saw it and I'm like, no. And then I dreamed about it that night. But I didn't have the money for it. I was, I do keep a budget. I know people probably don't think so, but I do budget my, decks, and I didn't have the budget for it. And I said, okay, but I dreamt about it. And that next morning, I'm like, okay, well, I was just sitting there thinking, I was like, I don't really have the budget for it. And in that moment, a reading came through sale, and it was, for a reading. I was like, okay, all right, I'm gonna listen and go purchase this deck, and I love it. I use it a lot in my past life readings. It's gilding, and this is a mass market deck, so the gilding isn't holding up as well to my riffle shuffling, but it's still beautiful, and it's just worn because I use it all the time. And again, that doesn't bother me. Do as I say, not as I do. You really should not riffle shuffle gold gilding, but I don't care. It's called the Shamanic Healing Oracle Cards. Love it. I already talked about the Illuminated Earth. This is the box for that. Illuminated Earth. Here was a surprise one. Angels and Ancestors. I love this deck. I think we're about time for a new reading, for our first reading of the 12 hours. So I'll probably use this one. I edged this myself with a gold pen. I don't really work with angel energy, so I thought, this isn't going to be really a deck for me, but I love it. I love the variety of people. I love the more pippish cards like this. I just love this deck. There are cards like Knights that you don't see a lot, or I love the Warrior card here. There's lots of course, Guardians in here. There's lots of sets, like male and female sets. So you have, like, this is like more Celtic pantheon. There's an Egyptian male and female. There are a couple animals, like the spirit fox. Again, there's quite a few different guardians. I just love this deck. It's one of those decks that I would not have suspected that I would like, because I don't really work with angels, but I love this deck. It was definitely that sort of sleeper deck that was unexpected, but is a fast favorite of mine. I use this a lot. Hello, Miss Veronica. So yeah, that's a favorite. If you're just coming on, we're just going through my favorite decks that I use with clients a lot. That one, Gentle Fire, is called Angels and Ancestors Oracle Cards. Next one is Mystical Shaman Oracle. The guidebook for me is like, I don't use a guidebook, but that's okay. I love this deck. I love the deck. I love the artwork. I love the color. I love the concept. The images plus the title are more than enough for me to use for reading. I don't think that the guidebook is necessary. But for me, this is about the cards. I mean, look at this one. Look at the artwork. That is amazing. Jenna Della Grottaglia. Like, come on. That's amazing. I love this deck. This card comes up for me all the time. So yeah, that is a favorite of mine. Well used. Use it a lot in like Ancestor and my web readings. I'll pull different decks, obviously, and that's one that I pull a lot. So the next two are my favorite or most used animal decks. I already talked about the Shaman's Oracle. We already talked about that one. And we already talked about Weaver. So just four more of my favorite Oracle decks. I know that. Gather a card, Gentle Fire. Almost done, folks. Almost done with this part. So my ultimate favorite, this is hard for me. I have two favorite animal decks for a reason. This is the Spirit of the Animals Oracle by Jody Bergsma. I absolutely love this Oracle deck for because I love Jody Bergsma's art. So that is a no-brainer for me. I'm not a huge fan of Oracle decks with text, like this much text on there. But I love this deck. For me, this is one of my favorite Oracle deck, animal Oracle deck, to just pull a supportive card out. I just love this deck. I love her artwork. I love the meanings that she has assigned to it. I wish the text wasn't all here, but I often find a word or two pop out as almost like an oracle in the text. I mean, look. I absolutely love this deck. So this is one of my favorites. Yeah, I was too, Michelle. I'd watched her YouTube channel. She used to paint on her YouTube channel. But I will say my second animal favorite is the Colette Baron Reed Spirit Animal. The reason that I love this one is because there's a lot of animals. So a lot of times animal decks seem to be smaller for some reason. And this one has 68 cards. So it leaves, it opens up to a lot of different animals being able to show up in a reading, which I really appreciate. The thing, and I love the artwork. This is Jenna Della Tagliaro's artwork. I love the artwork on this. For me, the only downside is sometimes animals are wearing crowns and earrings and things like that, which is not my favorite. But it's just a beautiful deck, and there's so many animals that are at play that I just have, come to not worry about the earrings and things. I use this deck a lot because there's 68 cards in it, which is really great amount of animal cards to have access to when doing a reading. So, yeah. So those are my two favorite animal decks at the moment. Always, of course, room for that to change. So, yeah, that is a favorite. Great card stock as well. Great card stock as well. Okay, two more decks of favorite oracles that I use a lot for clients. I'm going to put that back in there. I'm going to save that one for last. I love this deck. This is called the Cosmic Reading Cards by Nari Anastasia. She has another one called the Blue Messiah that sometimes I mix in with it. But this is the one that I love. Like this one, I absolutely love. That's coming, Elron. That's up here when we get up there. I love this deck so much. Again, if you're just coming on, we're going through my all-time favorite decks. But these first two sections of Tarot and Oracle are ones that I use a lot with clients. And I love this deck. And it's not a deck I would have purchased. It was sent to me because I probably wouldn't have picked it up off of the shelf. And it would have been so sad because I absolutely love this deck. I love it. I love the dark shadowed ones. It has one of the most powerful, I love this transformation one. It's glossy. I wish it wasn't glossy, but I mean, I love these. Like, look at this Let Go one. I'm trying to see if I can find the, Mother, or here it is. This is my all-time favorite Mother Earth card. Look, if you look closely at her hands holding the world in her face, oh my goodness. Bye, Anna Teresa. Yeah, love this deck so very much. Yeah, big favorite of mine. I use it a lot as sort of a last reading or last kind of pull for a reading. And I just love it. So those are my favorite decks Oracle decks that I use a lot with clients. I have one more that is new, but it's fast going in that position. So I haven't done a walkthrough of this yet. Well, I did do a walkthrough of it, and I lost the footage of it. But this is the Sacred Destiny Oracle cards by Denise Lynn. Folks, I love this deck. I absolutely love this deck. The reason that I love this deck is kind of hidden in the guidebook, and I wish it was in the cards. So it has like a keyword on the card. Like this says wisdom. This says action. I like the bold colors. That's what attracted me to it first. And it has the keyword on here, which is great. The sadness for me is that I think the power of this deck should have been placed on the card itself. And the power of this deck is that each of the cards are orienting you in a space. So in a landscape. So for example, you know, in a field or in a cave. Like this is in a cave, at a rocky seashore, in the Arctic. I wish, so in the guidebook, it shows the courage, but then it shows the landscape that you're being oriented into for journeying. Like this is the rocky seashore. And that for me is where the power of this deck lies. And I've used it for myself a lot. I've used it for clients a lot. It's one of those surprise ones. I picked it up on a whim because I liked the bold colors. Like this. This is orienting you on a cliff base. So I think this is going into a meadow like this, or an island, right? So I need to redo a walkthrough. Again, I did a walkthrough of it. It was over an hour, and then I lost the footage of this and a rune deck at the same time. I lost the footage on it. I deleted it accidentally. And so I need to redo it because I have absolutely been loving this deck. It says discover the landscape of your soul. So I just wish that the landscapes had been put onto the cards itself. For me, that would have been far more useful than the keywords. So that's that. Those are the favorite oracles. So I did favorite tarots and favorite oracles that I use a lot with clients. We've made it through an hour, so let's do our first pull. And I'm going to use the angels and ancestors. We've made it through our first oracle, through our first hour, and so let's do our first pull of the day. There's going to be a lot of them. A lot. Like the map. I don't have the map. I know what oracle you're talking about, Elron, but I don't have that, so I can't tell you whether or not it's like that or not. I'm not sure. I am not sure. Let's see. I feel like we should. Hello, Nanette. I feel like we should be getting some cards about enduring or taking the race all the way to the end or something like that, because we are 1 hour into a long day. Request, can one of your polls be from the John Bauer Tarot? Yes, they certainly can. Although I feel like that's in my favorites up here. I feel like that's one that is one that is just taking a walk with. I don't always stick with the tarot meanings for it. I feel like that's one of those tarot/oracle decks for me. I really think that's her best deck. It was so smart. I feel like I purchased it, Elron, and I didn't particularly like the artwork. I don't have, I believe I purchased it and returned it. And that's still Jenna Della Tagliaria, or whatever her name, Jenna, Miss Jenna. It's the artwork of Miss Jenna, but I feel like with the, no, that's Lily Moses. No, and I'm getting confused. I think that's Jenna's artwork. Anyways, I'm pretty sure that's Jenna's artwork. And I feel like with the mystical shaman and the animal ones, her artwork just took this amazing shift upward. And the other ones felt a little bit more like photo manipulation collage. So, so I remember I returned it fairly quickly. I know, but it's very different artwork. If you compare that to the mystical shaman, it's very different artwork. But I'll have to take a look at it if the concept is, you like the concept that much. I love the John Bauer deck, but I was so disappointed by the quality of the card. Yeah, I mean, it's just basic. I don't mind it, other than I would like it to be larger, but I don't care. It's one of my all-time favorite decks. This is, I believe, a Low Scarabeo. I actually don't mind Low Scarabeo cardstock. As a riffle shuffler, it actually is a nice, it's a nice, it shuffles nicely for riffle shufflers. Whoa, this is not a good start, is it? If I can't speak. Can you talk about why, after I do this pull, Miss Michelle, I would be happy to do so? That's a good question. Please poke me and remind me if I forget. I agree, Patsy. Although I do like the largeness of it, but it's hard to manage. It's definitely hard to manage. The backs are the greatest. I don't mind them because it feels like it's very folk art, but it's very folk art oriented, but it's not it doesn't go super well with the backs. Okay, I'm going to pull these cards so I don't forget Michelle's question, which I think is an interesting one. So we have the Hermit, Retreat and Recharge. We're going to need that after 12 hours of babbling. We have the Broken Arrow, Retreat and into a space of peace. And then our last card here is We Are Not Alone, which is fantastic because I don't want to be alone for the next 12 hours. So hopefully I don't spend the next 12 hours alone talking to myself, right? Okay, let's pull these up here. So I love Hermit cards. This is that sense of sometimes we have to pull back. And now I do think the Hermit card, I want to do a card on just the Hermit card, because I think that the Hermit card is such a powerful card of stepping back and kind of going hermit, going into some quiet space. Then there is a time in which, for me, because I tend to be of a hermit type, and so there is a time though when we can stay too long and it becomes more of an escape or more becomes hiding. So it's really beautiful and powerful. I think the Hermit, both in light and shadow, that most of us, we're not hermits. Most of us, we're not able to just stay in the mountain cave for our whole lives. We have to get down into the nitty gritty of earth and of living. And so there's this interesting space for that. But anyways, this is about taking a step, and this is into peace, because this is the arrow of peace. Embracing the energy of peace. So when things get a little bit too hectic, when things get a little bit too crazy, step back, like put yourself into a bit of a timeout, put yourself back and breathe for a moment. We are a lot of times, I think we are super, super busy, not right now, right? In the modern world, we are scheduled up the wahoo. We are, have our phones, we have our iPads, we have our computers, we have our televisions, our game systems. If you're a gamer like me, we have all kinds of things that are by work and friends and family and everything, to the degree in which we get overwhelmed. And so knowing the art of when to step back and take a breath is really important. Now, then knowing when to take a step back in is also important. But again, that's another conversation. This is one of my favorite cards. I love that the Guardian Angel card in here isn't a person, right? It's not any ethnicity, it's not any gender, it's not anything, it's just the feather. And so it leaves it really open, because maybe yours is a animal spirit or whatever that might be. So I really love that this leaves it open, that you have support behind you. You have ancestors underneath your feet, in my way of seeing the world. You have guardians around you. Take a step back and connect into that space when you need a breather. And this can be as short as a minute, right? This can be as short as just saying, you know what, I need to step aside for a minute. I'm going to, go to the bathroom or something, and just kind of set for a minute, take a breath, recenter, tap into your guardian energy, and then step back out. Or it might be a couple days or a week, just depending on what's necessary. But I think knowing when to step back into peace and kind of recenter, reground, reconnect yourself to supportive energy is really important. So that's our first reading for the day. So that was the Angels and Ancestors Oracle cards. And yes, that's my favorite decks. I love that deck so much. Oh, okay, Al, excuse me. Hello, Escape from the Eight of Swords. Michelle wonders about Elrond's name. I've wondered forever if your name is a nod to Vladimir Horowitz. Space. She's talking about space between the notes. I call him Elrond. He is Israeli, and his name is beautiful. But it sounded like, when I was first trying to say it, it sounded whenever I say it, it sounds like Elrond, King of the Elves. And so he has allowed me to continue to call him Elrond, because truthfully, who doesn't want to be the King of the Elves? Nothing to complain about there. So people, unfortunately, I think then people think his name is Elrond, because I'm a namer. That's one of my things. I'm a namer. But it's funny, because I do get, I have gotten messages of pointing out my rudeness in calling him Elrond, but he has approved it. He has given me the thumbs up that I'm allowed to call him that. It's our thing, and so it doesn't offend him, but it does offend some other people. Yes, Elrond is making his own Angels and Ancestor with postcards. If you look at his, I think you have a picture maybe on your Instagram. I think that's really interesting. We had, on live chats, we've been doing topics. And one of the topics was ancestors, and how we can have ancestors. We can have ancestors of our blood and our genetics. Can we talk about how Ancestry updated their genetics or their system, and it changed my percentages? We need to talk about that, because I was so excited. But anyways, we were talking about how you have ancestors of your body, right, of your blood. For me, you also have ancestors of place where you were born, the land you were born on, or the land that you're living currently in. And then you can also have ancestors of inspiration. They might be like Elrond is a musician. He's a pianist, and he might have people who have inspired him that lived before, like Beethoven might be an ancestor of inspiration for Elrond. Or if you're a writer, there may be writers gone by that are inspirations for you, and that you can work with those energies. And so we have been talking about that in the ancestor conversation that we had. And so Elrond had ordered from Zazzle some postcards with images of those ancestors that may not be his genetic ancestry, but they are ancestors that support and inspire, kind of like muses, maybe a lot like no Beethoven. I was just pulling that one. I'm not saying that was one of Elrond. Sorry, I don't know how to say it. Debussy. I'm sure that's not how you say that. So yeah, I think that was a really cool idea, because then you can sort of have those to set up on, what is Patrick talking about? I don't know. I missed something. I must have missed something Patrick said. Apparently he's starting on with the, apparently he's starting up with the t-shirts. You know, there's always all these t-shirt sayings people want. But I missed whatever one he was saying. So, oh, I've gotten messages pointing out my rudeness, but yes, but I do it anyways. Yeah, that could definitely be a t-shirt. Okay. Now I want to go back because I don't want to miss Michelle's question. Michelle asked a question. If I say this wrong, feel free to correct me. But I believe Michelle's question is why I think that the John Bauer Tarot would be a good deck for storytelling. So I know that she's asking because I'm teaching a class that is going to be about fairy tales, folk tales. And it's mostly more like a literature class. We're going to be reading a couple books, but we're also going to be using a deck throughout the class. And I'm guessing, because I know Michelle is taking it. I'm sorry. You're good with L. You confuse me. L, I've seen your name in so many different ways that I get so confused. So you've got to roll with whatever I call you now. So in my head, the two that I plan on using is either the Force of Enchantment or the John Bauer for that. And so her question is why would this be a good one to use for storytelling? This is an amazing deck for, no, it hasn't started yet. It's not till the middle of November. Miss Jada. The way that I use this deck is less about the tarot and more about, so this is the art of John Bauer, who is, I believe he is Swedish, but he was Swedish. He's obviously not alive any longer. I mean, look at this card. Look at this card. So it's all the artwork, and he did illustrations for fairy tales and folk tales so a lot of his artwork, of course, encompasses art from fairy tales and folk tales and things of that nature. So it is absolutely beautiful. It's just beautiful. So this is the back. People don't particularly like the back. I feel like it feels like, Swedish, Norwegian feeling art style. And it's definitely his artwork. I don't mind them. It doesn't go super well with the rest of the deck, but I actually kind of like it. I feel like it taps into children's storybooks. Anyways, it just really lends, and I actually like the way it has a top and the bottom border, even though I wish the cards were way bigger. But what I like is that you can lay them 1, 2, 3 in a row, and it forms sort of this flowing story, and the images just work really beautifully to tell a story and not get too and not get too caught up in even the tarot meanings or anything like that. Although, you know, you look at them and you kind of pull it in a little bit. One of the things that I think that this deck does beautifully is the use. It is up on the website. If you go to my website and then readings, there is right at the top, there is a link for the class. I'm only taking so many people because I think it's getting close to being filled, just because it's more of a lit class and a discussion class. So I'm trying to keep the numbers a little bit lower there. But look at that one. I love this. The use of the darkness of the woods and then spots of light, like really paying attention to where there is dark and where there is light in the images, I think is absolutely stunning. This is one of my favorite decks as well, so that's why this is a great one to talk about, because it's definitely one of my favorite decks. But that's, I guess, because the images were made for story, I do think it actually, they flow together beautifully and make it really easy to, in my opinion, it makes it very easy to tell a story with the cards. The other one that's similar would be the Rackham Tarot. Because again, this is art by Arthur Rackham, and this is art that was used to illustrate fairy tales and stories, right? I haven't done a walkthrough of this yet, but I need to. So for example, here, actually right on the top is a reading I did last night for myself. Hello, Simon is here for the duration. So this is, again, the same thing. I like that there is a top and a bottom border. And so it lets the images sort of blend into each other really well. And so the images just lend themselves. So here we have the night I think I have these mixed up. This is the reading I did last night. I want to show you this reading I did last night. It was the Knight of Swords was first, and then it was the Two of Swords with this, and then it was the Ace of Pentacles. So this is so bad because you can't really see them very closely. But here is a Knight of Swords, right? So here in the middle we have these flock of birds that are up to no good, and they've stolen the kite from this little guy right here. He's become disconnected here, and these birds have made off with his kite. So we have the Knight of Swords that is running in the active mind, the active realm of the intellect is running in to solve the problem of the Two of Swords. If you're doing this in a reading, is running in there, and then once this problem of the Two of Swords is solved, we have things regrounding, and you can see everybody's underneath a tree here, snug as a bug, all grounded into the ground itself. So there's a movement here. Whoops. There is a movement here of the mind rushing in to deal with the problem and everybody ending up regrounded. And so that's why I think decks like the John Bauer and the Rackham are really great for telling stories with the cards, because there's this beautiful movement of a story that you can see in the cards themselves. Now, of the two decks, I'm still a huge fan of the John Bauer. And I love Arthur Rackham's art, and I love the deck. So it's not that I say, you know, I don't like the deck, but of the two, the John Bauer's use of color, I think is just so beautiful that it's hard for me not to shift this still remains my absolute favorite for that. But they both work really well in that storytelling way of reading versus so plunk to plunk to plunk. This is a meaning, this is a meaning, this is a meaning. We can then see sort of a sweeping story. I hope that answers your question, Michelle. And those are two of my favorite, which is our next cubicle to go through, are all my favorite tarot decks. We already went through my favorite tarot decks that I use for clients, but we're going to next go through These are just my favorite decks of tarot for one reason or another. I love them for some reason, and these are two of them. So I guess we can kind of work our way that way. Again, I thought that the early morning was going to be very, very slow, and so I figured I would have something set that would my brain already are freezing. That would be easy to go through if there's just a couple people hanging about. So I thought, oh, we'll go. People always ask me what my favorite tarot decks are. And so again, we've already talked earlier about my favorite tarot decks that I use for clients. So we'll just finish this cupboard up because why not? Because we have all the time in the world. This is out of print. People get very frustrated about this one, but this is the Fairy Tale Tarot. I will say, let me just say, in all fairness and truthfulness, while I love this deck so much, and I'm so glad to have gotten a hold of it, in terms of reading, I love the John Bauer more. So there you go, and you can get the John Bauer. So this is a Baba Studio deck. It was out of print for a while. They ended up they had a bunch of decks that were missing a card, and so they reprinted it, and I'd always told myself if this ever came up, I would take it. And so each of the cards represents a fairy tale. So while this is really great for a single card of sort of inspiration, I don't use it as much with multiple cards because you've got then 3 stories going on versus making a trail of one story with the other ones. And it tells it right on there. So like Ace of Wands is linked to Jack and the Beanstalk. I mean, look at 8 of Wands with the fairy hunt. So yeah, absolutely love this deck. So glad I was able to get a copy. But in terms of readings and doing readings, I really do still love the John Bauer more in the field of fairy tale and myth and things like that. I absolutely love the John Bauer in terms of telling those stories. So there's a little boon out for you that, are frustrated that you can't get it. It's out of print. Yeah. Okay. Another Baba Studio favorite is the Bohemian Gothics. I mean, this one I don't think is out of print, but don't quote me on that. And there's my BFF. The one card I did not like in the deck, and we have become BFFs. Of course, I love this. This is full of monsters and vampires and werewolves and, bad priests and right? It's just awesome. But this is another deck to watch where it is out of print. Is it, Tarot Student? I didn't know that this one was out of print. This is one to watch where the light falls. And also the being that you think is the evil thing, look a little closer because very often it's not them as in real life. The monsters that we create are often not the real monsters, right? Like this is a perfect example. So you all know I'm obsessed with Frankenstein. I was going to write my thesis on Frankenstein. And in this card, you would assume that the creature here is the monster in this picture, but the real monster is Victor Frankenstein, and he is in the back. And so very often front and center seems like what is the monster in the card, but look behind it because very often the true monster is behind. Just saying. So that's a big favorite of mine. And I have to say, of all of my walkthroughs, and I don't rewatch my walkthroughs, I have to watch them obviously to edit. But this is probably my favorite ever unboxing. It just filled my heart with joy. Okay, so that's a favorite. And of course, you can see those are sort of storytelling decks. Do I have any other ones that are storytelling decks? No. Those are my favorite that kind of have that theme of telling a story to them. So here's another favorite. This is the Marshmallow Marseille Tarot. So these are Pip style decks that I absolutely love. Which version are you reading, Sherry Bug? You know, there are two versions. The original 1818 is the best version to read. There's an 1832 version in which there was changes made because the men of the time didn't quite like the fact that Victor Frankenstein was shown as being the real monster. And so there are changes in the 1932 version that make Victor Frankenstein a little less culpable, which is so fascinating. Because it very quickly, you know, Frankenstein very quickly took on sort of this, caught the imagination of the people. It was monster stories like that were relatively not put out, you know, a lot. Kind of sci-fi sort of things with electrical currents going on. That was sort of an early rendition of those types of stories. So they started doing them as plays and stuff like that. And very quickly, the you know, they wanted to shift to poor Victor Frankenstein. Oh, you know, he tried to do this thing, and then, you know, the mean monster attacked him and did all these things. And it really tried to make the character of Victor Frankenstein to be one that was sympathetic. But in the original, he was not, because he's the true monster of Frankenstein. And there we go. There we have a ramble about Frankenstein. Anyways, this is while I hold up cards for the Marshmallow Marseille. How confusing is that? I love this deck. It's based off of an Austrian Marseille deck. And it, you know, it has this just beautiful color palette, absolutely gorgeous color palette to it. Sometimes I just don't know myself why I do things the way I do. So the Marshmallow Marseille has nothing to do with Frankenstein. Nothing to do whatsoever, just to be clear. This is the Seventh Sphere Tarot, which is a very modern take. It's on plastic cardstock. It's a very modern take on the Marseille. But it's the first edition, Oh, I don't know, tarot student. I believe so. It's not. It doesn't have holographic backs. I love that Hermit card. These are kind of hard to show on the camera. It's a very muted palette. But what I love about it is it does have the pips. Let me find some more pips. The pips do feel very much like the order and the rendition of an actual Marseille deck, which sometimes decks say they're Marseille decks, but, you know, every pip deck is not a Marseille deck. So Marseille is very much about a specific, I think, 2 or 3 orderings of the way that the pips are set up. So a Marseille deck falls under 1 or 2, or I know it's at least 2, but it may be 3 ways in which the order of the pips are put onto the card. And so while a Marseille deck is a pip deck, not every pip deck is a Marseille deck. Hopefully that makes sense. But I do really like this deck a lot, and I like the shuffling of the plastic. It's a very ripple shuffly kind of deck because of the plastic cardstock. Hello, Whispering Well. Well, that's a favorite of mine. This is the Soul Cards, which is by soulcardstarot.com. It's by Christine Fredheim, Corina Nika, and Eva Eklund. There's a black version and a pink version. Look at those backs. This is just a beautiful, modern, symbolic pip deck, but it feels very Marseille. Some of the pips, like look, this is hard to show. It's like a pale pink with gold. I have a walkthrough of this. I'm not going to do too many cards because it's really hard to see them. It's a very silky matte pale pink with gold, and there's a black version as well, but this is the pink version that Mr. Patrick has sent me. I know he sold them in his shop for a while. I don't know if these are still available. I have absolutely no idea. This one is Michelle. Al. Sorry, this is a Soul Cards tarot deck. So that's one of my favorite pip decks. Another favorite pip deck of mine is the New Choice Tarot de Marseille. I love the backs of these. Love the backs of these. I love the coloration. Again, it has a beautiful, definitely a sexy vibe to the people, but I mean, look at her. But look at these pips. Like my favorite ever pip deck is the Ancient Italian Tarot, which I'll show next. Because of the pips, this rivals the pips in that deck. Like the pips are just amazing. People laugh about this one. This isn't traditional decks. Cats and dogs, mostly cats with claws pulling down the fool's pants, is a pretty common motif. But look at the Three of Swords. Sorry. The pips are so stunning. Absolutely. And just in terms of the pure beauty of pips, this one probably wins for me. I mean, look at that. Definitely lots of really good looking, ripped people, both male and female. But for me, the pips just absolutely shine. Absolutely shine. So I love that. I'm going to show in contrast to that. This is the Ancient Italian Tarot, which is a combination of two historical decks. It is the Majors of the Soprafino, which I love, which is from 1835, and it's the Minors of the Ovando, which is from 1880. So it has, I'm sorry, Nikki, this one, this is the New Choice Tarot de Marseille by Rosario Salerno, I think. So this is a combination of two older decks. It's one of my all-time favorite decks of all time. Oh, the two decks are, yeah, it's a combination of the Soprafino and the Ovando. So the majors are the Soprafino. This is why I love this deck. I love this one better than the Soprafino full deck because I just love the pips. I'm trying to get a couple of the pips. I also love the star. Look at her. This is one of my all-time favorite decks. Like, it's one of those decks that if you guys are always trying to get me to, if I could only have one deck, I would never be in that situation, but this would be high on the list if I was forced to have only one deck, just because I love it. So I'm getting the cards all flip-flopped around. So anyways, I also like the devil card. He looks like he's sweeping up all the treasures. So yeah, I absolutely love this. This is a low scarabeo deck they called it the Ancient Italian Tarot. And I know there's different backs. This is the back that I have, which I absolutely love. But I think I feel like I've seen a green back before as well. But I love that particular back. So that's one of my all-time favorite pip decks. Is that all the pip decks? I think that's all my favorite pip decks. Okay, let's keep going, and I'm going to finish this, and then we'll do something else for a little bit, but I'm going to finish this cubicle of favorite tarot decks. If you're coming in, that's what we're talking about. Tarot of the Sevenfold Mysteries by Robert M. Place. I don't even know what to say about this other than it's just so fantastic. I just love this deck. It's very Pip-like. He has quite a few decks. He has the Alchemical Tarot, but this is my this is my favorite. I absolutely love this deck. I love the symbol here. It's got an illustrative art feel. Hello, Turtle. It's got an illustrative art feel. I mean, look at this Ace of Pentacles. I love this deck. And again, it's got a very Pip-like feel, but there are images, like so for the Five of Pentacles, there are images on it as well. So I absolutely love this deck. Obviously, it's in my favorites. All of these that I'm showing you right now are my favorite tarot decks. So if I had to garner my collection down, way, way down, it would be all of the tarot decks in here, plus those tarot decks that we went over that I use for clients. Those are my favorite decks. And if I just had to keep that amount, that's what I would, these are the ones that I would keep. Of course, the Margaret Peterson Tarot. You all know, this is one of the pieces of my soul. I just love her guidebook. I love her artwork. This is the version, my favorite version, which is, it has no white line on the back. I just love her artwork. I love her take on tarot. I use this for healing work for myself and other people. I just love it. And it's, it's just one of those things, something either just hits you at that soul level or it doesn't. It's not everybody's favorite deck, but it is definitely one of my top favorite decks. I believe this is still available. I don't think it's out of print, but I don't keep up. I don't check. Like if I have it, I'm not checking. Yes, the use of color is amazing. Again, the little guidebook. She has a full deck, full book. That's all in. She's a German woman, and so she has a full book in German. And I just really wish that it would get translated into English. Because I do think I would love to read it, because her work, the little white book that comes with this, I read from. There are poems for each of the major arcana, and if I use this for a client, I read those poems. Like using this deck, I think you really miss out if you're not using the little white book. I do not have the Vikings Tarot, Jody. Sorry, I just got some little bits of tea leaves in the back of my throat. Oh, okay, so let's keep moving here. This is a deck that I can't show, but I at least have to say. This is not a deck that is not out. It is a deck that is coming out by Anna Turin. And she has images up, so you can go look at her her images of the Abyss Tarot. It got picked up through, she was going to print it herself, but it got picked up by, I believe, US Games. So that is coming. It's going to be printed by US Games. So I can't show the cards, but I have one of her test decks that, when she was working through the guidebook and things like that. And this deck is perfection. Of course, she also made me a card of my own in here that nobody will have, that makes it perfect for me. But in this deck, and in the US Games version as well, she's giving 2 renditions. And you can see a lot of images. She put a ton of images up. she gives two versions of the Three of Swords, depending on if you read it as Rider-Waite-Smith or if you read it more numerologically. Also, she also gives you two versions of the the Ten of Swords, which is a card that I, don't read the same way as Rider-Waite-Smith. Again, if you use numbers instead of the Rider-Waite-Smith system, she gives you a secondary card for the Ten of Swords, and it is the perfect Ten of Swords. I'm sure you can go and look at the images, but it is a perfect deck. It is one of my absolute favorites. I'm not allowed to share the images, but I had to at least say it because it's one of my favorite decks. It's perfection. Moonchild Tarot, absolutely love. I didn't expect to love this one because I have the Star Child. I have all the Star Child versions, and I didn't really mesh with that. I'm an old woman. I'm 51 years old, and some of the decks like the Star Child and things of that nature feel very young, very modern, have a lot of like almost a fashion magazine feel to some of the people, and so it just doesn't appeal to me as an older woman. I'm blaming it on that. Maybe it's just not my style. But the Moonchild, which still has elements of that and is still not balanced. Now, let's be honest, folks. I don't like unbalanced tarot decks. So I don't buy tarot decks that have all women in them because a tarot deck should have both. I also wouldn't buy a deck that has all men in it for the same reason. It's actually there's generally more men in a tarot deck than there are women if it's traditional. So I like my tarot decks, to be very balanced in men and women. And this one fixes it a little bit, but it's still got more women in it than men. But I love this deck. I use this a lot for my Journey with Grief reading and my Port in the Storm reading, which are both like healing readings. And I use this a lot. And I also use this a lot with the Illuminated Earth. These two together are absolutely amazing. So I use the two of these. I think it's also something to do with the warm tones of this deck that make it not quite so cool and not so, I don't know. There's just something earthier feeling about this one. And even though, again, the fashion kind of, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not my preference, right? But I don't like there to be where they're swapping out too many of the men in tarot for women or vice versa. I like my tarot decks to be very balanced with masculine and feminine energy. But I love this deck. And I use this a lot in conjunction with the Illuminated Earth Tarot or Oracle. And I use this a lot in healing, grief and healing work. So probably my two main decks of grief work, because if you know me, my channel, working with grief is an issue that I will have for the rest of my life with my son's death. And so when I'm working with grief for myself and for clients, these are the two decks that I use almost exclusively, the Moonchild Tarot and the Margaret Peterson Tarot. And right now it's almost exclusively the Moonchild. I really love these two decks for healing grief kind of work. Hello, Queen of Clubs. We are chatting for 12 hours. We do it every year. If you're popping in and you're new, we do this. This is our 4th year in a row. And so we're going through my absolute favorite tarot decks at the moment for one reason or another. This is a relatively new one, but a favorite. This is the Herb Crafters Tarot. I love this deck. I also got the Botanical Tarot, and I don't use it because I love this deck. This is by Joanna Powell Colbert, and this is the artwork is by Joanna Powell Colbert. The book is written by Letitia Guthrie. Here's the backs. I have walkthroughs of these. I just love, I use this deck for my, I have a walk in the woods reading where you encounter a plant and a crystal and a fairy and things of that nature, an animal spirit guide. And I use this in that reading a lot. I just love the intention that the herbs were placed into the deck. I think they work, of course, there's so many herbs and plants out there that you could pull from. But I feel like they did an amazing job with the suits and making them suits make sense in a fresh way that fits with the concept of the deck. So I just love this deck. I look at this one. I love the Tower card with the mushrooms. So yeah, this is definitely one. It's my favorite plant tarot for sure. And I use it as tarot and oracle. A lot of times will just use it to pull for plants, but then also the tarot meaning is there. So it's like a beautiful mix between oracle and tarot, and it works really well. So that's a big favorite. Dark Mansion Tarot. Every year for October, I only have it out in October. I do an Embrace the Magical reading. And this year, the deck that I've used for all of my Embrace the Magical readings has been the Dark Mansion. It's very Embrace the Magical. It has the kitschiness of like a Tim Burton movie. So there is that degree of, feeling of magic, but it's a beautifully crafted deck, and it's very deep despite the kitsch as well. It's like a beautiful blend of the joy and childhood sense of magic, but also in a really solid tarot deck. Love the backs. So yes, I've been using this for, again, all my Embrace the Magic readings, and it's been really fun being able to use it in a lot of readings for people. And I've only grown to love it more from, using it in readings. So I absolutely love this particular deck. So there you go. There's that one. We're getting close to being through my favorite tarot decks ever. We're getting closer. The two Prisma Visions, I can't pick one of those because I love them both. These are the Prisma Vision decks. This is the Light Visions and the Prisma Visions. I have a video up comparing these two. Basically, the Light Visions is in this sort of burgundy wine color. This is probably my personal favorite of the two. I use this one for myself, but for Prisma Visions, I use this a lot for clients because the use of color, look at the Sun card. The use of color in this deck, there's just nuances to this deck that are, I love this Hanged Man. Look at him. He is suspended, floating on the top of the water. If he starts thrashing about, those piranhas are going to start biting him. So he has to just remain calm and relax into the situation, and it's going to keep him afloat, and it's going to keep him from getting eaten by the piranhas, which is important. Look at that. I love these decks. I've said this over and over again. The only thing that I don't like about these decks is how glossy they are. But just the card box. Like, look at I don't know. It's just everything about it is just beautiful. So yes, I love those two decks. This is another big favorite of mine, controversial favorite. I know a lot of people have feelings about this, but this is a Santa Muerta Tarot. This is a Lo Scarabeo deck, and I use this for ancestor work. I do ancestry work all year long, but I do a lot of ancestor work from November 1st through November 7th. and I use this deck a lot for that. What this deck does an absolutely amazing job of is the pips, or the minors. Sorry, they're not pips. The minors in this deck show a progression. It's not so much choppy. It doesn't get kind of choppied up like sometimes the Rider-Waite-Smith does, but it shows a beautiful progression throughout the minors, which works really beautiful. And I just really appreciate. Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. Tribal woman, it's something that's just part of my practice, but I do really intensive work from the 1st to the 7th. The 7th, so obviously Samhain, some people call it celebrate Halloween or Samhain. The actual cross quarter is on November 7th, so I do a lot of intense work from the 1st to the 7th. It's very, very intense and very specific. So yeah, I love this deck. Again, it's not my culture, and it's not, you know, obviously where I, you know, come from culturally or ethnically, but there is a power here that I think works really beautiful, and I found it to be a beautiful reading deck for that purpose. All right, we're getting there. We're getting there, folks. Tarot of Delphi. This one is out of print. This is by the creator, or the curator, I should say, of the Majestic Earth. So this was, but from what I understand, this is at some point going to be republished. I don't have any kind of idea on time frame. I'm not, so I won't spend a lot of time. But she curated old art pieces for tarot. Now, a lot of people have done that, but she's in this deck. She's done it amazingly because it wasn't just based off of the look of the card, but it was based off of what was the scene happening in the painting. What was the painting showing us, and how does that relate to the card itself? So it wasn't just going through and saying, oh, this particular painting looks like the Two of Swords or whatever. It's that this painting topic or theme, as well as the image, goes along with this particular card in a beautiful way. And I just think it was amazingly curated. And so when her Majestic Earth Kickstarter came out, I purchased it immediately because I knew that that curation level was going to be there. And, you know, this is probably my top of my #1 deck. I absolutely love this new deck. So again, I know this is out of print. From what I understand, there's been discussions of this coming back in print for a long time, but I have no idea when that might be. Baba Studios, Victorian Romantic. I love this deck. I do believe that Karen Mahoney is another person who does an amazing job at curating old art pieces, and her guidebooks, when she writes about the different paintings and things that she, I don't know if this is out of print or not. I have no clue. It was out of print, and there were 2 Baba Studio decks that I said if they ever came back into print, I would purchase. One was the Victorian Romantic. I have the Russian version, which is amazing cardstock, but I said if it ever came back in English, I would buy it, and it came back, and I did buy it. It was definitely one of my most expensive decks purchased, but I don't regret it. I absolutely love this deck, and same thing with Fairy Tale. I don't know if this is out of print or not. It's one of my favorite 10 of Wands. You know, is the things that she needs to get done a burden? Sure. She's got wood on her back. She's carrying a baby. There's the heaviness and the duty that we see in the Rider-Waite-Smith 10 of Wands. But at the same time, there is that one foot in front of the other. She's going to get it done. She's going to do what needs to be done. I just love this 10 of Wands. So anyways, again, I don't know if that's out of, I'm assuming that that's probably out of print, but I don't know that. Um, so there's that. Okay, we're coming down the pipe, folks. Coming down the pipe. This one she recently brought back, I think. This is the Blick Tarot. This is a square deck, and I love it. I know Miss Veronica, I just saw Miss Veronica was on. I know Miss Veronica loves circle decks, but I'm not a huge fan of circle decks. Can I just say that my computer screen is flickering? So can somebody just tell me, can you still see me fine? I keep getting the whole screen every so often is flicking. My Mac is about to die, which I know, but I'm trying to keep it around as long as possible. Okay, thank you, Sherry Bug. I love this deck. I love that it's square. My Libra self, who has a little bit of trouble with circle decks, with square decks, it's like perfect. So I don't know if this is available. I saw that she recently did another pre-order of it, but I don't know whether or not, I don't know whether it's available or not. So this is called the Blick Tarot, and it's again making an amazing use out of old art, very specific art. And she just is amazing. It does a fantastic job. I use this for, I love to use this for a 4 elements, where I place the 4 elements and then can cast on top of it, because it makes a nice little grid. And then I cast my journey tokens or charms or runes or something on top of it to see where they land. So I really love this. I wish more people would make square decks. I know there's other square decks out there, but there's not as many square. There's not a lot of circle decks, and then there's less square decks. And I actually really like this square deck. So there's that. I'm almost done, folks. I'm almost done with the favorite tarot decks. Oh, people are coming in. This is one I have not done a walkthrough of yet either. It's been a very personal deck for me that was sent to me. I don't think I would have picked it up. This is called the Slow Holler. And I've done a lot of personal, I never use this for clients, but I've done a lot of readings for myself with this deck. And it's really powerful. There's differing styles of art. I don't know if there's different artists that's involved here. It's not my typical style of deck. I am more of a classics. I don't really like modern things in my deck. Like I don't really like cars and things like that. I don't like things like this that don't have heads, or that have like people with animal heads or something like that. Like that's not my favorite. Just in terms of, so I don't like decks with multiple artists because I don't feel as cohesive. I don't tend to like cars and planes in my decks, but this deck, I've had just some really powerful readings with it for myself. And I feel like for me, the real joy is actually the guidebook. It's just a little paper guidebook, but the guidebook has been, I just feel like, take some different takes on things that have made for some very powerful readings. So, it's one of those things that I think I've learned, where even though, we think about art being such a subjective thing, right? Everybody has different reactions to the same piece of art. And tarot is 78 pieces of art. And so I think that it's sometimes I make the mistake of art that I would hang on my wall because I want to look at it all the time. It inspires me all the time. It really hits that space in my soul. that doesn't always mean that that's the only kind of art that is going to work for you in a tarot deck. That sometimes art that you wouldn't normally put on your wall or isn't your favorite can end up being really powerful decks to cause you to look at a particular card in a different way and stretch the way that you see. So I've had a lot of lessons in not always just going off of what I would hang on my wall, or what I would stand in front of the longest in front of in a museum or something like that, but that they can stretch us and cause us to grow in certain ways. And that is something I've learned from the Slow Holler. All right, two more of my favorite tarot decks. This is the Marielle Tarot. This is the new version, although I think I'm going to pull my other version out. I miss my square cut borders that have the names written on them from Patrick, my friend Patrick. But you know, I love the Marielle. It's just a her artwork is so evocative. This is another one, right, that some people love and some people don't, due to the evocative artwork that's there. But this is a deck, in my opinion, that makes you just dive into a particular card and think about cards in a new way. Like, I love this Two of Discs. I mean, you know, as much as, you know, I think that people can be inspired and can, you know, bang out tarot decks in really fast, because the ideas of the tarot have percolated with them over and over again for many, many years, and then they bang out a deck really fast. So this is not in any way discounting that, because a lot of the decks that I love were created that way. But there's something about tarot decks like the Margaret Peterson, like the Marielle, where they are, you know, 10, 20, 30 years in the making, that there's just another layer of power to the images when you know things have taken somebody's lived a lifetime almost in the creation of their deck, right? There's just something there that I think you just can't get in any other way. And that's one of the things that I think the Marielle does amazingly. So there's that. I don't know if you can still get the first edition. Or if you can only get the new edition now. I'm not sure the state of the affairs on that. So there's that. And then the last one is the El Goliath Tarot, which I think is coming out again, addressing some of the issues people had with the cards. But I don't know that for positive. I don't know that for positive. This is a black and white deck. I've used this deck all year for my Wheel of the Year. So every year I do a Wheel of the Year. That was with animals. But my year ahead, which is a card for every month, which I do in December of the year before. So I've used this deck personally for my year ahead reading. So I have these sitting out. The card that is of the year, which is the Emperor, and my card of the month, they're sitting out all of the time. And there's something really evocative about the images. I believe these are all animals, which is something that I prefer. And again, I feel like the artwork in a lot of these images is really evocative. And yeah, I love this deck. Glossiness, not a fan of. I understand. I mean, some people love it, so that's not a criticism of a deck that it's glossy. It's just not my favorite. I think also because I film, you know, I film my readings for people, so having something really glossy actually makes it difficult for me to film when you've got that shine. So there we go. That is that is all of my favorite tarot decks. We did first section of ones that I use for clients all the time, and then we just finished the section. So so how many is that? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. So 37. Where is my Majestic Earth? Yeah, it's up there. So 37 tarot decks. If I had to trim my deck collection down to 37 decks, those would be the decks that I would keep, because I love them very much for one reason or another. And those would be the ones. Impressive to get room. So I know Miss Veronica's like getting her tarot room into the perfect tarot room. You know, I wonder if we have to change Nikki. Nikki's not seeing something. Do we have to change it? I can't change it here, Miss Nikki, because I'm in this new webcam view. I cannot change from live chat to top chat. I wonder if that has something to do with it, because I can't see anything. Anyways, thank you, Miss Nikki, for putting up all of those links. I'll do my favorite Oracle decks in a minute. I've already done my favorite Oracle decks that I use in client readings, but I'll finish up the Oracle decks, and then we'll be finished with that in this first part. Anyways, I'm not going to try to catch up because that won't happen. I'm going to go ahead and pull 3 of these because we're past 11 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and pull from the Sacred Destiny for our second reading. I also have some other decks that are just like newer decks that I want to talk about later, but I'm saving those for when we just have a lull. I have all my favorite Lenormand decks right here, so we'll get there. We've got 12 hours. We've got 12 hours, tribal woman. We have many. I don't know if I pull. I think I have all my favorites out there, so we can talk about those as well. I just haven't got to that cubicle yet. I think somebody asked me if I had the Reina George Lenormand, and I do have the Reina George Lenormand. I don't use it. There's a lot of gilding on it. It's the same reason why I actually don't use the soul cards for client readings. It's because when things are heavily gilded on the cards themselves, it makes it really difficult to film, because the way that I use the light to bounce off the ceilings to be able to record videos. Boy, I'm getting really nervous about my computer. It's okay if my computer goes down. We will figure out. I've never used my phone or my iPad to go live, but I know there's a way to do it, so we will sort it out. It just, the whole thing flicks every once in a while. I'm not sure. I've got everything closed down that can be closed down, so send some good juju. Simon says, have I outgrown my cubicles? Yeah, for sure. And if so, how do I store my other decks? This has worked really well for me. Is this my second year doing it or my first year? It might be my first year doing it. I can't remember now. Anyways, I've gone through a whole pretty much a whole year, where because I do have a lot of I have a lot of decks. Don't ask me how many I have. I don't know. I have as many as I need to have and room for one more. That's how many I have. What I have is under the bed, because I have a very small apartment. It is a little living room. There's a little kitchen dining room area that's very small, and then I have a bedroom. So what I've done is I have under the bed storage boxes that can slide under the bed. And so I have one that is for tarot decks that are in hard boxes. I have a smaller one that is tarot in tech boxes. I have a box for Lenormand, Sibylla, Kipper, those type of small playing card size decks. And then I have an oracle box. And so what I do is at each of the turnings of the year, so the equinoxes, solstices, and cross quarters, I go through and look through each one of my boxes and pull out any ones that are appealing to me at that time. This, you can't see, but this cubicle is my historical decks. That always stays the way it is. This cubicle is my favorite tarot decks, and then underneath it is my favorite tarot decks I use for clients, favorite oracle decks I use for clients. And then this cubicle over here are just decks that I'm working with or that I pull out from my system or from underneath the bed that I just want to work with, or it's a new deck that I want to play around with, or something like that. So that's how I store my decks, but that's also how I keep rotating in decks from those other sections. I also have a drawer underneath my desk that I keep for decks that I need to do walkthroughs of that I just haven't got around to doing yet. So hopefully that answered Simon's question. It works really well because I keep my favorites out. These don't really change because they're my all-time favorite decks. But it does cause me 8 times a year to, I feel like I'm getting really nervous about the computer. I'm going to try to ignore it. Anyways, it keeps me 8 times a year of looking through my decks and saying, oh, okay, this one interests me. I haven't used this one for a while. So I like that because it keeps me, keeps my favorites at hand. Again, I'm just as in terms of professional reading, I do tend to build my readings around decks, if that makes sense. Not all. Like my general reading isn't going to matter whether or not whatever deck is used. A Grand Tableau isn't going to matter what Lenormand deck that I use. But a lot of my readings, like say my web reading, is built around specific decks. My ancestor readings built around specific decks. So quite a few of my readings are like that, in that they're built around specific decks. So I always have those decks out because, to be able to use them. So there have been no visible. I'm glad you're not seeing it. I'm definitely seeing it. It's like, whoa, is it going down? Is it going down? It's going to keep me on my toes, isn't it? It's going to keep me awake at least. Neighborhood Arts says, I would love to hear more about how it is working with the Majestic. I'm assuming she means the Majestic Earth Tarot. Let me do this quick reading. I'll put it right here, and I'm happy to talk about the Majestic Earth Tarot because I waited for that. It's the longest I ever waited for a deck, and it was well worth the wait. And I knew the minute it came out that it was going to be a favorite, and it has not disappointed me whatsoever. Miss Kaleidoscope is on to a rubber stamp. You need to be sending me pictures. You might have. I got my phone obviously muted. But you need to be sending me images, Miss Kaleidoscope. That's what she generally does for me. Okay, let me pull these cards and then I'll answer your question, Neighborhood Arts. Okay, so we have Solid Sea. Our first card last time was the Hermit. And now we have the solitude card. So there must be, for myself and or, it's funny because I'm kind of coming out of a period of solitude. And we have abundance, and then we have wisdom. This abundance card is one of the reasons I bought this deck. The color saturation in this deck is really stunning. So here we have, as I said, when we were talking about the hermit card earlier, I'm a natural hermit. And when I get really stressed out, when I get really overwhelmed, when I get, life is just getting a little bit too crazy, I tend to withdraw in ways that is not always healthy, right? I think withdrawing is good and healthy. I personally will sometimes do it so in such a way in which I kind of cut off ties from friends. I definitely don't communicate very well when I'm in those spaces, and I can just really withdraw, and I have to then work myself back into place. So I've recently kind of come out of that particular space. So it's interesting that the hermit and the solitude are coming up a lot. So I do think that retreat and withdrawal and solitude are very, very healthy. They're things that I actually need, right? So I am very outgoing, and I love to talk to people. I love social situations, but I am an introvert. So I don't get recharged. We've talked about this before on our channel, where a lot of times there are people that I think we assume are extroverts, whereas most people, if they would meet me, would assume that I am a extrovert because I enjoy talking with people. I'm comfortable talking with people. I'm outgoing, but I don't get recharged through it. So introverts and extroverts are not just about whether or not you like people or being around people. It's how do you charge yourself up? So for example, my ex-husband was an extrovert. He charged up being around people, and he could not stand to be by himself or be alone or anything like that. It was draining on him incredibly. I enjoy company with people. I enjoy doing things, but it doesn't charge me up. What charges me up is stepping back and having some solitude, being alone with a book, writing, whatever, playing, music, whatever I'm doing, being alone recharges my battery so that then I can go out and interact with people. So that is such an interesting conversation, just because I think that we very often confuse being social with whether or not we're an introvert or not. And so figuring out what recharges your battery is really important. I also think that looking at you can go online and do a birth chart. I don't even think you have to do the whole birth chart. Let me see if I can find a link where you can find out what the composition of your elements in your birth chart. Birth chart element analysis. Let me see if I can find a link, because I think this is one of the smartest things to do for yourself, because I really found out, I was surprised when I figured this out for myself, because I didn't even know this, and it made so much sense. Let me see. I think this one might work, but let me look at it. I think this one might work. Maybe somebody can try this and tell me if it works. Somebody be a guinea pig. Yeah, that's the one I was going to do. I think that's the one I was going to do. Try that, maybe, Miss Nikki, and see if it works for you. Anyways, my point is that I am a Libra, and very air-oriented. I am very, I would say, I would say in many ways I'm very atypical Libra. Like when you think about a Libra in general, I think that I fit that bill quite well. But in my birth chart, my dominant element is fire. And so creative things like painting, playing the piano, playing the guitar, these types of creative energies are what can most easily fill me up. So if I'm really stressed out and feeling drained, I can tell that I haven't been sitting down at the painting table, and I stopped practicing my guitar or practicing piano or something like that, because those creative energies really recharge me the fastest. If I just need a quick recharge, then it's going to be more in the creative aspect than in the intellectual, even though I'm really in my mind, I'm in my head a lot, and I'm strong in air, but it helps me to, when I realized that I actually had that much fire in my chart, I was really surprised. So taking time to figure out what, are you recharged in company, or are you recharged out of company? And are you most easily recharged is usually whatever your highest element in your chart is going to most quickly get you recharged back up. I don't know why we got on this one. Something got me there. I think because we were talking about solitude and hermits, and that went into introvert, extrovert, which went into the elements. This is the way that the brain rambles, right? So anyways, take the time to do that. I think it's really interesting to see those things, because it can help you to see, how you can most easily recharge. Back to the reading. Sorry folks. That was our first really official squirrel moment there, huh? They will be increasing as the day goes on. Well, I found, Jada, I'm not an expert. I am not an astrologist. I use astrology, but I'm not an astrologist. But what I find, Jada, for people is that whatever your highest element is in your chart will most quickly recharge you. It's other things can also charge you, but it can be the thing that most easily gets you recharged. So if Miss Veronica is all water, then even though she might be a hermit, which is the truth, I'm guessing, because it wouldn't surprise me if Miss Veronica is probably a bit of an introvert, where she probably needs quiet time to recharge. Not that I'm analyzing poor Miss Veronica, but I know we're quite similar. But at the same time, because she's water, that she really is going to be most easily recharged when she dips into her water energy. Now, remember that water is not just about relationships, but it is our emotions and feelings and how those connect to other people. But it's also our belly, right? So the water energy is the water of the high priestess. It is the belly. It's the power that's in our belly. I'm shaking my belly down here. You can't even see that, but it's what's down in our belly. It's our intuition. It's our where the seat of our gut feelings and our intuition is. And so her tapping into those spaces could recharge her the most, as really as stopping, pausing, stepping back and getting in touch with what she's really feeling might recharge her a lot better than kind of just go and keep on going and pushing yourself forward. Again, I'm just using her as a example because I know we sometimes are similar, even though I'm not high water. So yeah. So those are two things to think about as you think about how to recharge yourself. Think about or figure out, are you recharged by solitude or being out with other people? And then find out on your birth chart, what is your highest element and how that might help you to quickly recharge when you need a quick recharge. So yeah, back to the reading now. Sorry. So we have this solitude, again, stepping back. And let me just show you what I love about this deck, because, we've got time. We are not in a rush here. I have to talk for the next 10, 9, whatever much time we have left. So we're not in a rush. What I love about this deck, and I really wish that it was, I talked about this in the walkthrough that I deleted accidentally. If you look at the Solitude card, it says on the card Solitude. I'm considering writing, or I'm considering sending these to Patrick and having him write them on there because I like his handwriting. I don't have good handwriting, but I would prefer to have the landscape. So in the guidebook it says the landscape that's there, and in this case this is the sacred island, and so it's about, these cards are about orienting self in a particular landscape. And so especially the first card, I really like to pay attention to what is the landscape that's here? And this is the sacred island. This is Avalon, right? This is stepping back to that sacred space, and really connecting ourselves into what feels like sacred space, right? That is the pathway to abundance. We think that the pathway to abundance in a more modern Western mindset, I don't want to say Western, but a modern commercialized world, which we all live in and experience in, that doing things and producing things and go and getting this done and getting is what's going to give us the abundance, right? When we're chasing after abundance, which there's nothing wrong with that, right? We all need abundance in our lives in a variety of formats. We need money to pay our bills. We need all of those types of things. But a lot of times, the path to abundance in a modern mindset is to do, go, and that we've got to run after abundance. But what this message is saying for us is that this path to abundance for us right this moment is actually stepping back and into the sacred island, and that's going to be the pathway to abundance that brings about wisdom, with the wisdom card here. So I just love this deck. Again, I will redo the walkthrough. I'm frustrated that I deleted it. Again, they take me a while to do and film, and so it was very frustrating. But I really love this particular deck. So there we go. That is our second reading, even though we're now getting close to having to do our third reading. And almost two. So just for those that haven't done our 12-hour chats before, every 3 hours, I stop the video and we restart another one in 10 minutes. Or I think what we did last time is just restarted the next video, but then I walked away for 10 minutes so I can go to the bathroom, refill my tea, and that kind of thing. So that will be coming up at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is in about 25 minutes. So that's kind of how we walk our way through the 12 hours. So, and I do, as it goes on and I drink more, I do, Miss Nikki yelled at me last year and probably the year before. If I have to go to the bathroom, I'll go to the bathroom. It's not good for your bladder to hold it. So we just roll with what needs to happen here. So I want to answer this question, though, before then, because somebody, and I don't know who it was, I'm so sorry. Somebody asked me, I think it was Neighborhood Arts, maybe, but maybe because I just saw your name. Somebody asked me how I've been liking working with the Majestic Earth. Again, this was a Kickstarter. She does have, I know there were like 350 decks or something beyond the Kickstarter. So I know that it's going to be coming up for purchase once I think all of the Kickstarter stuff has been fulfilled. She has a, excuse me, she has a newsletter that you can sign up for that she'll let you know when they come up for sale. So right now you can't purchase these, but they will be purchasable. And I did do a walkthrough of these, so you can watch the walkthrough. But why do I love this deck? Okay, well, number one, it's the Majestic Earth. I love earth-based decks. My personal spiritual practice and path is very earthy, very ancestral, animal spirit. That's just my personal practice. Herbs, making herbs and tinctures and things of that nature, and salts and herby stuff, earthy things. That's just the way that my personal practice is. And so something like the Majestic Earth really, floats my boat, so to speak. And so one of the things that I love what she changed in the court cards. It has keywords on it that it keys you in nicely. They're not obnoxious, so they don't bother me. They're there, even though I don't generally like keywords on tarot decks. The one thing that I thought I was going to have a trouble with, hello, Mr. Zach. The Majestic Earth will be on, I did not know that, will be on Amazon too after the international orders are done being shipped out. There we go. I was worried that I would have a problem with the suit of wands or fire being trees, because you think, oh, let's not set fire to the trees, please, right? But it works really beautifully. I love that there is a creature for each. So the major arcana has changed. And I really love the changes. I found it really beautiful to work with. Look at that moon card. I don't know. I just love it. It really zones in on the elements. I wish that it had been all elements. So I wish it would have been the suit of water, fire, earth, and air. That would have been perfect for me. But, stone for earth, definitely. I love this tower card with the ship there. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know what else to say other than that I have not been disappointed at all. It was a long wait for it, but it was well worth the wait. And my initial feelings that I was going to absolutely love it has only held out the longer I've used it. And I've used it for myself and I've used it for clients, and it reads really well. I haven't had any issues whatsoever with it. I just love it. Hello, Miss Holly. Her first 12-hour stream. Welcome to the fourth. And yeah, Mr. Simon has been here 4 times. No, Mr. Kaleidoscope has been here 4 times. I know Zach, I believe, has been here 4. I think it was all Zach's fault, actually. I'm 99.9% sure that 12-hour live chats are the fault on Halloween, around Halloween, are Zach's fault. Scrolling chat. It is very, gentle fire for sure. The scrolling chats. I mean, it ebbs and flows, especially with it being for 12 hours. There are times in which, it slows down, and it's just me and a few people. And then there's times in which it can get really crazy and it's scrolling really fast. So, definitely there are more lulls, but live chat chats are difficult. I miss a lot in them because, excuse me, it's good manners when you're answering a question or talking to look into the camera. And so then when doing so, you miss everything that's going on over here. So it's just the nature of the beast. They're not the easiest to scroll through. That is for sure. I think what I'll do, because we've gone through, for those who haven't been here, we've gone through all of my favorite decks that I use for clients. We've gone through my favorite tarot decks. So I think when we come back, I'll finish my favorites up with my favorite oracle decks. And then that way, at least all of the favorites are at least in the first 4 hours of things. So that if that way they can find it a little bit easier. Um, if somebody wants to find that. Eventually I do need to just do a video that's just that, but I thought it would be fun. I pulled the ones from my table, Terry, which is, I thought of doing that last night. And so I did of the tarot and my oracle, actually, I pulled, because those are down here in the ones I use for clients generally, because that's why they're on the table. I definitely did pull everything off my table. I don't know about my working area. I may have an oracle over there that I'll have to remember. I'll look when I go to take a quick restroom break and when we're moving. I'm not sure how long this headband's going to work because it is metal and it is kind of digging into my head. So we'll see. We'll see how long it lasts, but we do have spider earrings anyways. I know. Thank you, Jen. I know. I tried to bend it, Terry, like to try to make it less pinchy, but so I'll mess around with it because I do like them. It was a little set at Michael's, I think, and you use a coupon. It was like cheap, but the last time was a hat, but it was always going out of there, so I thought we'll do something a little more subtle this year. Let's see, because we do love Halloween here, don't we? Is anybody dressing up for? I'm trying to just kind of, I don't want to get into anything next, like a bigger topic, because we're going to be taking a break in 15 minutes. But is anybody actually dressing up for Halloween? That's one of the things I do miss. When my kids were younger, even when they were adults, my son loved Halloween beyond all measure. I really believe more so than Christmas, he loved Halloween. So we did big Halloween parties. Like we had the people, everybody came to that and you were required to dress up. And so we did the big Halloween bashes and absolutely loved, rolling into that. So I've been very often, I was a fortune teller, dressed up that way. I'm trying to think of, very often it's like those types, more Renaissance style, because I used to go to, my sisters and I and friends used to go to Renaissance festivals. So I already had those costumes and made those up. So I tend to do something with that. One year I know we did book club, something in the beautiful. Oh, I can't remember the name of the books, but everybody came like as one was an archeress. My sister, I remember, was an archer. We all came as sort of figures from books and things like that. Oh, I love it. But I will say, no, somebody asked if I do not get trick-or-treaters here. It's a small apartment building, so it's not, there's only a couple of units in it, so there's not a lot of units. It's at the end of a neighborhood, so I think most of the kids go into the neighborhood more so. So I don't really get trick-or-treaters here. Whale Song is dressing up in a Scooby-Doo Snuggie. Uncle Fester, I see. Lady D is going to be a witch and hand out candy. Elle could be a Diana with her hounds. I love that. Patsy usually does a fortune teller with cards. In Scotland, we say guising instead of trick-or-treating and use a carved turnip instead of a pumpkin. I need to find a picture of that tattoo in tarots. I can't imagine carving a turnip. Let's see. I'm going to be a party. I'm going to be the Love Witch. The Love Shack is a little low place where We can get together. I started out on the right, and then I feel like I totally started to lose it there. That's okay. That's okay. It tends to be how I don't know. Some of you who didn't come right at the very beginning, I have a delivery. I ordered something so that it would come today because it's fun to get a package in the mail during live chat. One is a deck, animal deck that I wanted to check out, and one is a game that's called like Make Your Mixtape or something about mixtapes. And so basically you ask a question of, okay, if you are trapped in a car with a bunch of zombies surrounding the car, what is the song that would be playing in your head? Like if you were to put a mix song, because you remember, I'm in my 50s, right? So there were actual tapes back in the day. But even now, my daughter makes mixtapes all the time where you just like craft this perfect tape that has like everything you need for a perfect romantic evening, and you just everything. I think that we can look back at memories and we can play like a soundtrack to, you know, what would be playing in your head on the moment of your first kiss, like what would be that song. So anyways, I got that game, and I have Spotify up Truth and Story Spotify, and I thought we would build a mixtape together, which I thought would be fun. Chuka Thriller. Gaming chair. Okay, that's gonna be the very first one. Okay, here's my create your playlist. No cancel. I don't use Spotify, so this is going to be a little bit of a learning thing. So now I think, how do I search? I'm going to find, and then I can't play these because we will get muted if I do. How do I do this? I'm going to search. But after we're all done, I can link the Spotify to, I don't want it to play. I just want to pause so they don't mute us. How can I add this to my playlist? Okay, add to playlist to Embrace the Magical. There we go. Okay, so we have our first song in the playlist. And then when we are all done, oh no, it put the whole thing. No. Oh no, Embrace the Magical, play one song. Okay, good. I can say put it on my Facebook and link it so everybody can watch it. Because the first question was, if you were in a car full of zombies, surrounded by zombies, what would be the song that would play in your head? There's a song by Rob Zombie that I think would be in my head if I was surrounded by. Let me see if I can find it. Is it Dragula? Probably Dragula. I'm going to add that one in. That's probably one that would be playing in my head when if I was in a car surrounded by zombies. Staying alive, gentle fire. I love that. Maybe we should have a more specific too. Okay, let's do this. We're playing, folks, because we've got the time to play. So let me see if I can rename this playlist. Does it let me do that? Again, I don't use this, so let's redo this. Let's go to my library and go to playlists. Okay, can I rename it? I don't even know. I can't even know how to delete it. Because what we should do is put it to the question. I'm trying to see if it will let me rename it. I'm sure there's a way to do that, but we'll figure it out later because it'd be fun to have just on the questions. So I'm going to go back over here to live. Let me pop out chat. There we go. Pop out chat. Oh, there we go. Oh, yes, Julian. Good one. Good one. Zombie by the Cranberries. And when I'm in my break, I'll call Bart and see. He uses Spotify and see if he can tell me how to change it. Okay, I'm going to go back to search. Zombie by the Cranberries. I love that song. There we go, by the Cranberries. All right, so we're going to add that to the playlist. This is the playlist of being stuck in a car with zombies. Zombie, Hazel, I don't know if I've heard that one. I will listen to that afterwards. Zombie song. Is it by Stephanie Maybe? Mabe? Oh, no, here, Nightcore version is what she said. All right, don't start playing because if it plays, they will mute us. We did this one year where we played some music and it mutes us. So once I'm done putting a few of these in, I will save the Spotify link for you guys to click on. Let me see if I missed it. Nikki hates Zombberries. So, oh, Rosemarie said Zombies by Cranberries as well. I love that. Gentle Fire, Staying Alive. We got to add that one in. That was awesome. If you're just coming in, we're kind of wasting time at the moment because we're about to take a break. So just bear with us while we make a zombie playlist. Here we go. I don't think I've missed anything else. Did I? Some whale song, Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. Oh, is this a love song one? I'm going to save that for later. Oh, did Pride and Prejudice with Zombies have good music? I do have to do that. Or I have watched that. Okay, I think I have the ones in there. Oh, Sherry said it too. Nice. Okay, we're going to try Zombie by Bad Wolves. Oh, I see that there. I don't think I've heard that before. We're going to add it to the playlist. Bam. Okay, I'm getting it. If somebody can figure out how to change the title of Monster Mash, definitely do. Somebody needs to figure out how do you change a playlist title on Spotify. I'm assigning that problem to somebody. Do the Monster Mash. Yes, this is recorded. Live is always recorded and left up for all those who want to try to get through what they missed. Add to Living on. Oh, that's a good one, Sherry. Living on a prayer. Is that what we're talking about? Is that the same one? I could be wrong. Ignore me if I'm wrong. Oh, halfway there. Something like that. Is this a different song? Somebody tell me if I am on the right song. Thank you. I'm like, am I even on the right song? Gooey. Oh no. Rosemarie, do I even want to hear that? Because I don't even like the sound of that. Gooey. Oh, the sound of silence. There's no sound of silence with the zombies all around us in the car. Gooey by Glass. And we're just going to add these in here. If you go to play these back, who knows what's going to be in here. In My Time of Dying. Ooh, Time of Dying. That sounds like a perfect song for being in a car surrounded by zombies. The Psychic Knitter. What? It's an amazing. Oh, saying two at Psychic Knitter. Disturbed. Oh, sorry. I need to add that. Disturbed the sound. Oh, there it is. There we go. I got it. Add to playlist. Highway to Hell. That's the Magical Sage. To Hell by AC/DC. We're pulling them back there, aren't we? I know. I thought the Psychic Knitter, like, is that a song? Who knows? Like, it wouldn't surprise me. Prayer apparently by Disturbed. This is going to be an interesting playlist, huh? Don't be going into solitude to your sacred space and listening to this particular playlist. I will survive. Oh, there we go. That's a good one, Rosemary. I will survive. Will survive. I don't know which one is the one I know. Probably Gloria Gaynor. Yeah, that's the one I'm going to put in there. Sorry, folks. They really do block the whole entire thing. If you play any music, we had this problem. Bloody Mary by Lady Gaga. Okay, that one's not coming up. There it is. This is going to be an interesting one. I'm gonna send a link. I'm gonna send a link to this. Elrond, no. Elrond is the king of being in the middle of a different conversation and trying to change the subject. We're taking a break in 3 minutes, so instead we are making a playlist. You can re-ask that afterward. I don't know what pure. Oh, I like the I Stand Alone. That's a good one. Just like 10 minutes. I'm just going to get the fresh tea, go to the bathroom, or run a bell around for a minute. I think I'm going to go ahead and start the playlist. I think I'm going to. I know he's always trying to do that to me. Ask me again. I promise, Elron, I will talk about that if you ask me that again when we're not in the middle of being almost done and finding zombie songs, Mr. Elrond. I'm trying to say I'm sure I missed some. So I'm gonna cap it there because we're about to stop. So let me see how I can show you. There were more. I am sure that I missed some. But let me try to add this one. Silent Siren. You need a silent siren, don't you? Again, I don't know. Some of these songs I don't know, so be prepared for your ears to be blasted. Okay, let me see if I can figure out how to link this here. My library. Here is the playlist that somebody needs to teach me how to copy playlist link, how to change the name. Okay. Here we go. Somebody try this link and tell me if this works and if you're able to see the link or not. But I will also put the links up after live chat is done on my Facebook page. I'll put all the links up. But somebody click that and see if it actually works to pull up the playlist. It worked. Jen says it works. Okay. But anyways, I have a mixtape game coming. Sometime it's going to be delivered sometime today. And we can make some playlists like this every once in a while when we just need to wake ourselves up a little bit. But that one will be eventually renamed to, in a car surrounded by zombies. Once we figure out how to change it. I will bug Bart during my break to see if he knows how to do it on the web version, because that's what I'm using is the web version. So I will see if he is around and can show me how to do it. So we'll make several playlists. I will definitely put all links of all the playlists up so that we can watch them back later. Yeah, I'm going to put the links all in after the whole thing is done as well. Hit me with your best shot. That's a good one. Hit me with your best shot. Fire away. Something like that. Don't. My How do I put the chat back in? I guess it doesn't matter because we're going to stop this chat. Okay, so if this is your first 12-hour chat, the way this happens is I stop it at 3 hours and start a fresh one. It makes it easier for people to find what they might have missed, and it just keeps things a little bit more manageable. So I'm going to be ending this stream, and then I'm going to be starting up the next stream in about 10 minutes. So that is about 12:10-ish from now. I'm going to start the next stream up. I'm going to go to the bathroom. Everybody, stretch your legs, use the bathroom, get something to eat. And we'll be back here in 10 minutes, and it will start a new stream versus this old stream, if that makes sense. This will be available for playback, but it has to process, so you probably won't see it right away. So see you. Actually, I think I can make the stream to start in 10 minutes, so I'll probably set that up. I'm going to try that. So I'll see you guys on the flip side. I'm going to go ahead and end this stream. And